All right, here we are. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to All Around Town Radio. This is a rare special Friday edition of the show. And I felt it necessary to do this and to come on today with some friends of ours and talk about a dear friend of ours who recently passed, and that is JD from the Gamut. And with that said, we're taking time here at noon. If you're watching after we're live and you want to make a comment about JD, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your positive comments about him if he impacted your life in any way and those kind of things. Certainly want to hear it. So we're going to get started today, and I'm going to bring in my friends here from the Gamut who are able to join us this afternoon on the program. And there they are. I've got Mark, Aaron, and Will. Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. All here. Despite the horrible week and a couple weeks that you've had, you've done some playing and you've been out and you've done a lot of things to, I guess, put the memory out there of JD for everybody and to honor his life. Mark, I want to start with you up there in the corner if I can. How long was JD involved with the Gamut?
He actually came to us a little over 10 years ago. I'd been talking to him for about 2 years prior to that. We had a few personnel changes that actually one guy left and decided he wasn't leaving and back and forth. But and JD, interestingly, had a lot of questions for me, too, before he joined the troop. But he joined in somewhere around August of 2004.
And with that said, he obviously was very impactful to your band. I know he did, and we're going to talk at length about him here, but he brought a flair to the stage with you guys, and he always had that great smile. And Aaron, how long have you been with the band, Aaron?
8 years. Yeah, I'm coming up on 9.
So JD was established in the band then when you joined, and Will. We're going to talk at length in a little bit about you because you have huge shoes to fill, and it's got to be tough stepping into this role for someone who was such an icon of the band. And I understand you've done a remarkable job, and we're going to chat about that as well here in just a few minutes. But guys, let's talk about let's go around the horn here a little bit. How would you describe JD? Aaron, let's start with you.
JD was extremely genuine. He was, definitely a musician and loved playing music, but he was more about the show and more about the people. Whenever we went on break, you couldn't find JD because he was lost in the sea of people talking to everybody. He was just extremely personable and loved people, just loved talking. He was the social butterfly of the group for sure.
Well, that's a fact. And Aaron, I was telling you offline here a few minutes ago that first time I met JD was actually through Glenn Drew, who introduced us at, I believe, the Remember benefit at the Blue Note. And I'd known of him, but I'd never met him. And by the end of the day there, I felt like he was my best friend. I mean, the guy just was a wonderful person. He was so supportive of what I do here. And I was just taken back by his generosity and his offers to help and do anything. And I think that's how he just moved through the community. The music community loved him. We know that for sure. But even people that just were customers and came into the venues, they obviously loved his style and his social butterfly thing, as you said there, I guess. And Mark, what would you describe that as?
Oh, gosh, I think Aaron hit it on the head. Let me clear up something I said earlier, too. He joined the band in 2014, not 2004. So 10 years, a little over 10, but I was talking to Garf, our drummer, this morning and asked him if he had any input. And he said one thing to me. He says, JD never met a stranger. And
that's a fact.
That hit me between the eyes. It's like, no question. And, aside from everything else relative to this horrible loss for us, just to this point, which is a little bit on the lighter side, we're trying to figure out how to take that role on and do what he did for us from a standpoint of just getting out in the crowd and all the things he did on social media and talking us up till he had to take a drink of water. He just did it all. And we got, like you said, some big shoes to fill.
And Mark, I talked to Aaron not too long ago online a little bit, and I said, I hate to be the the bearer of the bad news, but JD was the guy who sent your gigs to me every week for me to announce on the Thursday show, and somebody's going to have to fill those shoes even. And and I'm certainly I get a little emotional over it because I'm going to miss him and his humor sometimes on that messenger group, because he'd always say something funny as well and pop it in there. So he was just that kind of guy, and everybody loved him. And it's such a loss for your band family. And Will, you have to step into his shoes, and every time, and I've heard so many people say in the past when they've filled in for someone who's passed on and they've come into a band that they weren't there to be them, and I understand that completely. You're there to play music in the band, you're there to be their bass player and all that, but what's your take on all this? Because it's got to be a little bit to have a two-edged sword to it, sort of.
Yeah, it's definitely unusual. Because and Mark is smirking because we had this talk, I come in and he's impossible to replace. You can't replace JD, it's an impossibility. So really what I try to do right now is just, give everybody in the band space to process and do their thing and try to be a friend for them. And then just try to do my job as a musician to the best of my ability, and try to honor what JD was doing and what he did so well. Beyond that, it's a healing process for everybody, first and foremost, I think.
That's a great way of putting it. It is, and it takes time to heal. And you're filling a big role, and the band cannot go on without a bass player, obviously, and the band is going to go on. And as JD would have said, the show must go on. I know him well enough to know that would have been his view on this. And he's probably said it to one of you at one time or another. I don't know if you've had that kind of dialogue with him, but I would assume that was the thought in his head when he announced that he was leaving the band and those kind of things.
Well, here's a interesting background on that too. Our friend Aaron was last spring in a pretty bad car accident, and he was out of commission really with us for at least a couple of months, and then a few months after that, sitting in a chair on stage. But during the process of trying to keep things going, Albina knew William, and at that time, the guy's multi-talented, got a bachelor's in music at CCM, so we're all sort of bowing down anyway.
All right.
But he came in and filled in for Aaron for a couple of months on lead guitar, and it worked out well. And of course, JD was with him at the time, so he got a good taste of who our new boy was. And back in the fall of last year, when we knew we had to give JD just a respite, and talk to him in depth about, take a couple of months. Let's see how things look at the end of the year. And in the meantime, we had a couple of guys fill in for us. One of them was your good friend, Jonathan Grooms, who's just been a stellar guy from a standpoint of supporting us all through last year, and also, of course, in the last couple of weeks. And then William said, well, hell, I can play bass. I play lead, so that's an easy transition, and we knew it would be for him. But the guy, before our first gig with him subbing, he went out and bought a new bass guitar, which sounded like, oh, that's pretty good commitment right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry to go on about this, but when we decided, JD came down here in the studio, and we all sat down. He told us he knew he couldn't continue. About a week went by. Of course, we're trying to think of what our next step is, and we had decided that William was our guy. We told JD about it, and he didn't hesitate. He said, you have my absolute blessing. He says, William's just the greatest guy that I would be honored to have come into the band for me. So we all felt really good about that.
Wow, what an endorsement. That's great. I mean, it really is. And that gives me chills because, to have the person who's the outgoing member of the band, so to speak, do that and say he's got my nod and endorsement, that's says a lot for you, Will. It does.
Thank you. Yeah, he's just an amazing guy. And, I was talking with the guys yesterday about just seeing old pictures of him and just how magnetic his smile was, and it seemed that like it never went away. Just that he's just a beautiful person, and his blessing means a lot. It really does.
Well, I always say in life, there are people you meet that have $1 million smile, and he had one of them. I mean, he's one of those people that just, he exuded happiness and that. And let's transition into something here. I want to ask you guys, especially Aaron and Mark, you've worked with him a lot. What is one of your favorite memories? And if you're out there, guys, drop your memory in too about JD. If you have one in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. But please give us your favorite memory with JD if you have one that stands out.
Mark, go ahead, bud.
You're up, Mark.
I was thinking about this morning because I knew I'd be asked that. And one that comes right to mind, and it was when we first auditioned JD. As I said, we've been talking to him for months, and he comes, as you know, from a long line of great bands. And actually the last role he had was being the sound tech and overall guy for Bad Habit. So we had talked about that in depth, and I was a little bit in awe of him, actually, because of all his background. So we finally came down here and had an audition with him, and we hit him with, "Can you do this? Can you play that?" And yeah, he would do that, and of course he carried it off in spades. And at the end of what we had done, I said, "Do you have any questions for us?" And he said, "Well, yeah." He said, Can we do the Boston song of Long Time, but start it out with the foreplay intro, which is like a 2.5 or 3 minute keyboard solo, which is ungodly."
Yeah, exactly.
He was completely straight faced, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I didn't know what to say because there's no damn way I know that intro as much as I've tried. If I had a year, maybe. And all of a sudden he just burst into laughter and looked at me and he was just hilariously pulling one on me because he couldn't do it. And to me, that sealed our friendship and his entrance into the band. It was great.
How about that? Yeah, he was a character. And one day, I will say he's a helping guy too. In one of my memories, I'll get to yours, Aaron, in just a second, was that
Sure.
I was on the air one day and I was frustrated with something going on audio wise on the show, and it was giving us fits and all that. After the show, he messaged me and was telling me, "Oh, try this, try that," and all that. I said, "Well, how about this? How about I send you a quick link and you come in and we'll just do a private thing together. We won't publish it and won't put it out online, but you listen as I adjust and you tell me what sounds the best." And the next thing you know, he's sound teching for me from a distance, virtually, and telling me to adjust this on the board, do that on the board, and sure enough, it fixed whatever was going on. And he didn't have to do that. I mean, it just out of the kindness of his heart, and he wanted to see us succeed. And you guys have watched me enough to know when I get frustrated with something on the technology, and I'm old, and I are like, get off my lawn type thing, get out of here. So. I'm not a technology dude at all. So, Aaron, throw it in there, if you will, one of your favorite memories.
There's so many, but one of my favorites was very early in the band. I forget what song we were playing. I believe it was a Bon Jovi tune. But anyway, I was doing some of these pinch harmonics, which are something that I always loved doing. And it took me forever to figure out as a guitar player how to play them. So once I started getting it and enjoying that, I saw JD, he looked up at me and I was like, uh-oh, I did something wrong. And he came over to me after we'd done playing the song, and he's just like, "Hey, I really like that." I was like, "Oh, it was just a little pinch harmonic I wanted to throw in there." He goes, "Do that all the time. Seriously, do that all the time." And it was so encouraging because I've always been the youngest guitar player in any band that I've been in, including this one up until Will joined. So no longer the youngest, but I was always the kid. And so I always got told how to play, what to play, and I never got to be me in most cases. So that was something with JD. JD talked to me later. He's like, "No, be yourself. You pay homage to what you're playing, but you're kind of a metal guy and you're kind of this, and you bring a whole different edge to the band. So do that. Please do that." So it's one of my fondest memories of him just saying, be yourself. And it was like, I don't know what myself is. I've never been able to be myself. So that was super, super encouraging. And I carry that in my heart all the time. I think about that all the time. So.
And Will, do you have a fond memory you want to share?
Yeah, sure. It was actually when I filled in on guitar. I think it was the first gig I ever did with him. And I think Albina contacted me like 9 days maybe before the gig, and I had to like, learn all these tunes and stuff. And I was like, man, this might be weird for these guys, just me coming in and wondering what they're going to think. And I think it was after the first song we played, JD was just like, yeah, man. And he was just so happy and just kind of came in for a high five. And I just really felt his personality, and then had a pretty good idea of what kind of dude he was. And, the rest of the gig went great. And he just exuded kindness and acceptance. And
yeah, he had a way of making your day. I mean, he really did. Anytime I ran into him, I'd leave happier than I was when I got there, because I had the moment to spend a little bit of time with him. And so many times I ran into him at music events. So, there's not a lot of chatting that goes on there because the music's loud and all that. But it's even a nod and a wave was just perfect from him sometimes, because you knew he cared and was a part of it. And what do you guys think that he valued most in life? If you could tell us that a little bit.
From my perspective, we've always been on the same track, but he brought to us even more a sense of family. And from my impressions of 10 years of being right next to him, the family of the band was right next to the family of his kids, his grandkids, and Cheryl, and everyone that surrounded him, his brother. The guy just wore his heart on his sleeve, and those things were paramount to him. It was amazing to me. I mean, how open he was. JD didn't hold back, and that could be a detriment sometimes. But when he was passionate about something, like these two families, you knew that was exactly where his heart was. That to me epitomized his important things in life.
Thank you. And Kim, thank you for that comment as well. We appreciate your comments, guys, as you're paying tribute to JD here today with us. And that's funny. He offered to dye his hair, and then he didn't realize some of you were older than he was. That's pretty good. Yeah. That's awesome. Aaron, anything from you on his what he valued most in life, you think?
I'm going to agree perfectly with Mark. I knew JD before the Gamut, back when he was at Buddy Rogers. He sold stuff at Buddy Rogers, and I always went there for my guitar strings. I sweat a lot on stage, and I have acidic sweat, so I go through so many guitar strings. And I would go in, he's like, "You gonna buy me out today?" Well, anyway, after I joined the band, every birthday, if it was my anniversary with the band, "Hey, I got you a present," and what'd you get me? What are you doing? He'd always have a bag of 3, 4, 5 packs of guitar strings, a pack of picks, and he knew it. He knew when the anniversaries were. He knew when my birthday was. And then, outside of the Gamut, it was, "Hey, Aaron, Jeff Beck's coming to town. You want to go?" I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, what guy wouldn't?" So he took me to go see Jeff Beck. And actually, I met you at an outing with him. We went and saw Dreamboat Annie, and that's where I met you, Scott. Yeah. So, he was always looking to do stuff outside of the band, as much as he loved doing stuff with the band. If it was your birthday, 7:10 in the morning, it was always a certain time. He was the first to text, "Hey, happy birthday, happy anniversary," whatever it was. He knew you inside and out. And also, when it came to him within the band, he was our PR guy. So he ran a lot of our Facebook. And after a gig the next morning, you would always see a post from the Gamut, but it was JD. And every person that he knew personally, they got a shout out and a thank you for attending. He was just super passionate about people, knowing them, making sure they were recognized and felt comfortable. He just had that quality about him.
Well, as they say also in the business, you ain't a lion when you're talking about breaking strings there, Aaron. I think I watched you break 3 in one set one night at Heather's. It was crazy. You're
I bash on the strings a little.
tough player, but that's perfect what you said though, and I appreciate, because that's one thing I always notice, and obviously everything we do here is social media driven, and I obviously noticed that JD, who told me he was running your Facebook page, would do that every time you had a gig and shout out the audience and people. It was just amazing to me, because so many bands don't take the time to do that. And that's your bread and butter. I mean, that's the people who come to your shows. And the reason the venues book you is because you have an audience full of people who love you guys. Mark, you've got some?
Well, I was just going to add to that, invariably I'd get up on a Sunday morning, really any day of the week. And we have a band thread, of course, like I'm sure every other band does, but I'd get up, get into the bathroom, open my phone, and there's almost always a text to all of us, also internally, from JD, and it was like 5:40 in the morning. Easy stuff.
That's not band time, man.
And I always, actually, I've got a text from him that he used to send me every month to make sure that I put the monthly band schedule out for the gigs that are coming up for this month. And it always come like on the 30th or 31st. So I made a copy of that, and I have it in my phone now that comes up every month.
Take your time, buddy.
To remember to do that. And it comes from him.
And it's still coming from him. That's right. We all know that, Heaven gained a great bass player, and not only a great bass player, but a guy that's up there coordinating the bassists now, I'm sure, and making sure everybody's in their proper position and place. And what a wonderful human being we're talking about today. And it's tough. And I know it's tough for you guys. You've been family for a long time, and bands, they have makeups and breakups and all those things. But so often in a band, there's the core unit that is just, it's like your guts got ripped out when he left. I mean, I know that. I mean, it's just the core unit is the unit of that band, and people come and go, like I said, but you lose a guy like this. Thank God for Will. I mean, Will has stepped in here, and I watched him the other night at one of your casino shows there, and he fantastic job. Everybody that, has to fill in a role like this has got to be a little timid about it. And I know we talked a little bit about it there, Will, but you got to have a sense of, will they like me? Will they accept me? Not only the band, but the audience. And the audience can be as critical sometimes as any. And I think you've been well accepted here from what I've heard and seen. And I hope, Will, you're ready to fill those shoes for a good long time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's definitely different. I have a good amount of performance experience, but not in that kind of situation. And again, you just hope that, first of all, that the band is feeling good about it and they're comfortable, and you're lending a helping hand in that regard, and like also trying to remember how JD would play something, and because the guys are just so used to it at that point, and just being humble and really thinking, like he's played bass far longer than I have, and just taking cues from that, and just big shoes for sure to fill. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's Mark, if you can take this one, let's talk about what's coming up Sunday. I know it's a celebration of life for JD. You have a lot planned for that. I know he kind of pass that to you guys, and I think that's been passed on by his family as well with you guys to help put this together. So how about telling everybody that's out there what is going to happen Sunday to honor his life?
Absolutely. Yeah, Cheryl put together this event. We've tried to help her as much as we can, but she's doing the lion's share, and it's really set up to be a sweet celebration as far as I can tell. It's at I got it written down here, so I'm going to refer to this. It's at Shooter Sports Grill, but they have a ancillary building. It's a Washington Event Center in Hamilton. And that's Sunday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. We expect a ton of people. I think the room holds 300, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it completely full. The service, which is going to be a fairly short one, but I know it'll be beautiful, is going to be with JD's nephew, I believe, and our own Mr. Aaron Henning to do eulogy and some special remembrances and talk about JD. That should last, I'm guessing, a short time, half hour at the most. But we've been working on 3 songs that we're going to do for our brother, and we actually finally got together last evening and worked through all of them. And it was an interesting session, pure happiness to a little bit of jaw-shuddering moments as well. But I think we're very happy with the songs we've picked, and Albina has gone out of her way to make sure that the full sound of the band is going to come through on our final song, which features her. But we're very much looking forward to that. And as I said, it'll go till 7 if folks want to stay around, and I think most will. And we're going to give a big salute and a send-off for JD.
Yeah, and I'm going to say too, I would love to be there. Unfortunately, I have a conflictive event, and it's so funny because when that date came up, and I saw that I'm working Ken Anderson's Rockin' with Ken Anderson's event this weekend on Sunday, and I thought to myself, how many times did JD message me and say, hey, we're here, can you be there? And I'd say, oh man, I'm sorry, I've got a gig or I've got something. He'd say, you work too much. He'd come back with that. And I said, Scott, you work too much, but you never know. If this thing ends on time, I might be able to sneak over to Hamilton for a few minutes. I'd love to, and be able to at least stop by and pay my respects, because what a wonderful man. And you guys, that's going to be tough. Those songs will be tough. Aaron, you officiating this thing is going to be I don't know if I can choke it back and even say the words. So you said you've been preparing those words and things. How do you feel about doing that?
It's an honor. It's an absolute honor, and I couldn't think of a better way to send off my buddy. So that works just fine for me. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'd also like to add, Scott, if I could, that we set up a fund for JD's memory and for his family. That's on our Facebook page. There's a link there to a QR code. If anybody can't make it, we've had a number of people say, I'm sorry, I can't be there. And is there a way to donate? And that's there for exactly that purpose. So if anyone is able to look at that as well, anything's appreciated.
And let's, after the show, guys, I know you'll be sharing this show on your page and all that. Let's drop that QR code in the comments if we can on the show here. And that way, if anybody watching today or watching after we're live wants to donate, certainly please do, and help support his family, because there's so much that goes into all this when someone passes on, and a lot of unseen expenses and such. So please, if you can, throw a little help their way, and just in his memory. I mean, if you were ever touched by him, just give a little donation and say thank you and all that. And we'd love for you to write comments on the show. We know a lot of you are going to be watching after we're live here today, but we felt it necessary. I just had it in my heart that we needed to talk about him and have you guys on, because you are such a tight band family. And I admire that so much. And as I said earlier, people come and people go, but JD is not going to be one of those people. He's a huge loss for you. Thank goodness Will has stepped in. And when I saw Jonathan play with you, he was helping and there to see JD in his final days as well. So, it's a tight music community here that we share. And you guys are a huge part of that. I have one more question I'd like to throw in there if I can today to you guys. And it may be a tough one, but I want to know, I'm going to start with you, Mark. You've been with him the longest in the band. I'm going to start with you and say, if you could spend one more day with JD, what would you say to him that you didn't get a chance to say?
Oh, wow. You know what? This sounds like I'm copping out, but with as open as he was and as many discussions we had together, both on stage and off, I feel very, very blessed that I said it all to him and he to me. We never held back.
No regrets then. I mean, it sounds like you guys had the time to talk. I mean, you did. You had the time to talk. This wasn't an immediate sudden loss. It was something that you knew was coming. He finally said to everyone and made it public and all that. I know he was very private about his illness, but he made it public and let everyone know. And at that point, I think you all had a chance to say those things to each other.
I won't take a lot of time, but to that end, a short story again, but the last time I saw him, I looked him in the eye and told him I loved him. And his eyes told me he knew. He couldn't speak. But 3 days prior, I had changed my profile picture to him and I together. And Cheryl texted me that night and said he passed at 10:30. And of course, broken. But 20 minutes later, JD liked my post. Loved my post. And I checked with her the next day, were you on JD's phone? Has he been on his account? She said he hadn't been able to get on his phone or his account for days, and I wasn't on it. So I take that as I love you back.
Yeah, that's a great sign. Aaron, do you have anything to share with that thought?
We as a band went and saw JD. Well, it was like maybe a week and a half before he passed. We took a day on the weekend to go see him. And just to speak a little bit about family and everything, we really are a close band. Mark was my best man at my wedding. Garth was in my wedding party. I mean, everyone came, and at the end of the night, when all the guests had left, it was just the band and me and my wife, and we're all saluting and having a good time, and letting each other know that we love them. But we all went as a band to go see him and spend some time with him, and it was actually a really nice visit. But there was a really funny but poignant point in time where he's like, we're sitting there talking, you okay, you need anything? And he's like, you know what? And he just stares at the ceiling. And all of a sudden you kind of see everyone in the band kind of turn and start looking up like, is there a spider that's coming down? What in the world's going on? And he said, I want you all to know I'm good. And he let us know that he loved us and that he was in a good place mentally. He knew what was happening. And it was a really great visit where we all got to say that we love each other. Thank you. Everything that we needed to say. So yeah, there's nothing that I'd kill for another day with him just to go sit and talk. I remember him talking about Jimi Hendrix was his first concert, and I'm a Hendrix nut. So I would sit and talk with him about that, but there's nothing left unsaid. He knows that I loved him. We said, I love you to each other, and goodbye. And I couldn't ask for anything else really, other than selfishness, wishing he was still here. That's it.
Well, I can say that you guys, you've touched me today with your wonderful stories and all that about JD. And I will tell you my feeling on the thing. I would love one more chance to walk into an audience, look up at him and see him connect with me out in the audience and give me that smile from the stage, because that is it was priceless to me. And there's one photo that we used on our page, and I'm going to pop it up here just for a second for those who are watching that may not have known him. This photo personifies that smile right here, and I just love it.
There he is. That's our buddy. Yep.
Folks, we appreciate you being with us today. Mark, Aaron, Will, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
And again, guys, celebration of life for JD. You can find it on the Gamut's page if you want to attend. And please look that up on the Gamut's page. Aaron, you're in my thoughts and prayers to deliver your eulogy as well as you can. And certainly Mark Will, thank you. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, and get together soon. I'll be at one of your shows. I enjoy the Gamut so much, and the show must go on, as JD would say. So let's make that happen. Thank you guys, everyone, for watching. We'll be back on Monday with our weekend update from All Around Town Radio, live at 5. And until then, hit the share button on the show and pay tribute to this wonderful man known as John Dale, or JD. And we thank you all for being with us today. And we're going to go out of here. No theme songs, no fanfare, no nothing at the end. Thank you for the hugs, Carla. And thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Guys, stay with me for just a second, if you will.